Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and today we're going to check out this really sweet 1996 Volvo 850 Turbo Platinum Edition. Let's get started. So this one just came into the shop just recently, actually not for any work. The owner of this car did ask for a quick oil change, and we're going to give that to him for free. But he emailed me and said, would you be interested in filming this car? I really don't need anything done to it. I'd just like to see if you'd be interested in filming it. I said, sure, why not? I'm sure you guys, the viewers, would like to check out this really cool Volvo. And I obliged. Now, before we get too deep into this, there are a lot of things about Volvo that I am not familiar with. And that's where you guys know there's only one person in the game when you want to know facts and features about a Volvo is to have a master Volvo salesman. And again, we have Bug Ninja, or Adrian. Welcome back, man.
How's it going, brother?
Pretty good.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, YouTube. Good to be back.
Yeah, when I got this one in, I knew I have to get you down here and get your take on this thing because it's in really good shape and it's a really cool car. I don't think there's a whole lot of them on the road. But before we get it on the lift, we'll take a look around, get your take on a few things. I'm going to kind of look around the car, and as we go around, you can point out some features or facts about the car.
Sure. First big fact is that they only made 400 of these approximately for the U.S. market.
That's it?
That's it.
400?
400. And part of what was special about it was that it was pearl. Volvo didn't paint any of the other cars in pearl, just the special edition. And had a special 16-inch wheel that came with the car, the Persis, right? And of course, the Nivamat suspension.
Yes.
These are all things that I can't necessarily show you, right? But they're in there. And Volvo applied that suspension to the rear of the car for self-leveling purposes.
Right.
Made the car more stable, et cetera, et cetera.
They kind of pump themselves up a little bit, don't they?
Exactly. I'm kind of running off at the mouth because it's a special car.
So on the grille, I noticed that the emblem's missing. And keep in mind, guys, the owner of this car told me this is not a concours level car. It needs a little bit of work here and there, but it's in good enough shape that he drives it every day, and he thought it'd be a cool video. So,
yeah, a good Volvo is a driven Volvo.
A driven Volvo, not a sitting Volvo.
Absolutely.
The paint's in pretty good shape on this side. There's no dents. The wheel is in good shape there. It does have on the side molding a little bit of a rubbing, like it's rubbing or something's going on there. The doors look fine as we go down this way. These really have iconic, beautiful styling in the back, don't they?
They really do. I think Volvo was probably the first wagon maker that had the tail lights from top to bottom. Right, that was kind of their signature for a long time. You know, part of what makes this this color special is because Volvo had to figure out a way to responsibly paint a car in pearl. Right, Volvo has not only has a commitment to safety, but they have also had a long-standing written commitment to the environment.
Right.
And they were one of the first manufacturers to have a written commitment to the environment. As such, they wanted to make sure that they painted the car in such a way as it would be environmentally responsible, and they didn't have to paint it in several trips.
Right.
Right.
You can see on the bumper that, talking about the paint, they've maybe backed into a few things or scratched it a little bit.
This one's had a harder life in the back of the car.
That's too bad. As you can see here, it's denoted the 850 Turbo. You were mentioning something about models that were designated T5, but in this era they weren't. Yeah,
so this would, as a 96, this would have been the last year that the 850 was called a turbo, right? Because it was either 2.4 liters naturally aspirated, or it was 2.3 liters turbocharged.
Okay.
In 97, they started calling the vehicles, actually I think it was 98, but in 97 they added a third designation, which was the GLT, which was a 2.4 liter light pressure turbocharged car.
Okay.
Right. And then the very next year they started calling them V70s instead of 850s.
V70s.
Right.
Okay. And as we go around to this side, there is a crease you can see right here. I don't know how that happened, but there's a little bit of a dent there by the tail light. The wheels, again, are all in decent shape. They're not all scuffed up real bad. The paint is in pretty good shape. It's really not too bad, except for the few things we've noted. Glass is all intact. It's not cracked. There is missing a belt line molding there. And we're back around to the front. And these, again, in the European cars, we see wipers on a lot of the headlights. You don't see that in American cars too much. It's just to clean mud and slush and debris off.
Yeah, it does two functions. It not only wipes, but there should be the sprayer nozzle, right there.
Yeah.
That also sprays washer fluid onto the wiper before it does its cycle.
Well, I'll open the hood and we'll take a look underneath. So the owner of this car is infatuated with Alcatraz. This is the old prison from the 30s, 40s. Al Capone was there. And he mentioned that he purchased this car, and on that trip he was going to visit Alcatraz, and then the transmission went out on this thing. And rather than go visit Alcatraz, he actually had to get this thing shipped home and get it fixed, and it really threw a wrench in his gears, literally. So the transmission has been replaced or repaired. It also, you can see in the engine bay that the timing belt's been done. As Adrian said, this is the 2.3 liter turbo.
Yeah, let me interject there real fast about the timing belt. With as indestructible as I believe that these 5-cylinder engines are, that's the one Achilles heel. I've had more than my fair share of clients who've come in, neglected to do that timing belt change, and then within a couple hundred or a few thousand miles later, they're coming back in for an engine.
Oh man. So this is definitely not one to skimp on the timing belt service. I don't see a whole lot of leaks or anything going on up top here, which is good. Maybe in the back there's a little bit of seepage going on by the turbo actuator, but nothing serious. Otherwise, everything's in pretty decent shape around here. This engine has 222 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good power. Moved the wagon around pretty nice. But I imagine after this year model, as they started changing the motors, did the power go up?
In the V70 T5, I believe that the power did go up. It needed to because, again, you just introduced a 2.4 liter light pressure turbo engine as well. So, and then they also, when we talk about the V70s, they also introduced the first R, which would have been the all-wheel drive version of the wagon. With the lowered suspension, like I said, all-wheel drive system and a high-pressure turbo system, and the V70 XC, what they call the cross country, which was raised up off of the ground a little higher.
Right.
Still had the all-wheel drive system, but the 2.4 liter low-pressure turbo system in the car instead.
Interesting. All right, well, let's take a look at the interior. This is a really cool car. You know what the interior of this car reminds me of, Adrian?
What's that?
A 90s Mercedes. It has the same exact smell.
Yeah.
Identical. Obviously, it doesn't look like one.
No.
Mrs. Wizard's dad has had several Volvos over the years, and they always have a really nice layout.
Yeah, Volvo is always keen on ergonomics, and they've gotten better and better over time, right? Even though I love Volvo and people know that, there's a few things about the interior of the 850 I didn't really care for.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, this was the first car that Volvo made where they had cup holders.
Oh.
Right? And you look around the interior, you don't see them, right? They're right here. Now,
that's pretty flimsy.
Well, not only are they flimsy, but what else do you notice about the cup holder in its position?
Oh, it's right over the window switches, so if it spills, it gets right into the switches. Yeah,
and you can't just replace one switch. You got to replace the whole master panel.
Right.
But, I mean, I appreciate the fact that Volvo gave us cup holders, right? At a time when even Mercedes still wasn't.
Right.
Because the Europeans don't believe in having a drink of any sort in the car and driving at the same time.
Now, Adrian, you are wrong.
What's that?
If he opens the glove box, there is a cup holder.
Yeah, let's look at those. Now, imagine trying to put cups inside of those. That's the reason why I don't even mention those cup holders, because they're not even worth talking about. I suppose if you're sitting still, right, and having a picnic, you know, or whatever, they'd be fine, but I surely wouldn't drive with those.
Everything that's here is going to fly all over the place.
Absolutely.
Is there anything here at all?
Let's take a look. I believe it's the ashtray.
The ashtray, okay.
Yeah. I do like that they gave you, even back in this time, they gave you a nice double DIN sized stereo.
Right.
So even with a car that's this age, you can still bring it all the way up to the modern era with Bluetooth and Apple CarPlay and things of that nature. And I believe that it really extends the life and the functionality of an older car like this.
They always have very comfortable seats in Volvos to me, it seems like.
The best,
The
in
best.
my opinion.
Yeah. Really nice on the back. The dash in this one is in really good shape. It's not all cracked and beat up.
Nope.
Interior is pretty nice on this one for the age, and it has how many miles there?
157,617.
So roughly 157,000 miles. Looking pretty nice in here.
Yep. I do need to mention something about those seats that you were talking about. The seats in the Volvo are actually designed in cooperation with chiropractors.
Chiropractors? Wow.
So that way they make sure that the seat contours properly to your back, because cars are used by humans and not people shaped like refrigerators.
Right.
Right. So you need to have a comfortable seat.
It definitely shows, because everyone I've ever sat in or drove, it was really nice on the seats. And the back seats are equally in nice shape. The headliner's nice.
Absolutely.
Car's in pretty good shape.
Interior safety features that you didn't find on cars in this year model range. Right?
Oh yeah?
And one of those things was the SIPS bag, side impact protection system bag. The reason why I'm touching the seat is because that's where the airbag is in this vehicle. The car has a perforated stitch. Can't remember if it's this one, but I believe it's this one right here on the side. It's a perforated stitch, such that if you get into a side impact and it gets detected by the sensors here on the side of the frame of the vehicle, it deploys this bag.
Oh wow.
Right? Rips the seat open, deploys the bag.
So it's basically an early side impact airbag.
Absolutely. The first, Volvo was the first, with that technology.
Right.
Right. And people used to ask me, I talk like I'm still in the car business, but people used to ask me, well, how much does this cost to replace or repair if you've had that done? And my response is, I really don't care. Right. Because if you got hit hard enough to deploy this bag, you really needed it and your life was in danger.
Right.
Not only do we have that safety system in the side of the seat, but you also have WIPS, which is your whiplash protection system. Okay. You've had, since the 240, you've had non-adjustable headrest in the Volvo. They always seem to kind of be in the right spot, right? But that's so that if you're hit from the rear, your neck doesn't extend over the top of the headrest, causing whiplash injury. Volvo went a step forward with that system and developed what they call the WIP system, in which when you get hit from the rear and your body separates from the back of the seat and comes back into contact with it, the seat's made to deform in a predictable and kind of linear fashion, right? So that way the seat absorbs the impact and not your body as much.
Wow, that's really cool.
Right. But they were thinking about this years before anybody else was.
Yep, Volvo's known for safety.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's get this thing on the lift and take a look underneath. One thing before we lift it up, Adrian had one more thing to show.
Yeah. As another portion of that side impact protection system with the side impact airbag here, there was also right here, you can see there's a little bit more structure that you don't normally see on cars. And that's because these two seats here are mounted on a bar system, and underneath the center console in the frame of the vehicle there would be a box. That box doesn't have anything in it but air, and the bar is connected to it. So if you're hit from the side, it's made such that it's designed to allow the seat to move and that box to crumple, right? Again, absorbing impact.
Wow.
So that way you don't have to. That was all a part of Volvo's side impact protection system.
Really cool. All right, it's time to look underneath and see what we see.
All right.
I see a design flaw already.
What's that?
You park this thing and you hit the parking stall and
It's
you just
gone.
cost yourself $1,000.
Looks like they've tried.
This is an intercooler, I believe. Yep,
Yeah.
the radiator is in front of it. A little bit of seepage going on here. Keep in mind, guys, he said it's not in showroom condition. He knows it's not. It's still cool to take a look at one of these vehicles. There's an oil filter. There's the bottom of our 2.3 liter. There's the seepage I was talking about. You can see it's coming from the pressure side of the turbo boot, I believe. It's not horrible, but for the amount of miles on it, it's not surprising.
Can I mention something about what we're aiming at right now?
Yep.
Right. On the suspension, and well, I guess really the transmission, has an axle shaft that comes off here, right, and connects to an axle shaft on that side, right? So there's what I'm aiming for here, and what I'm getting at is that the vehicle has equal length drive shafts, and that helps with torque steer, especially when you're dealing with a turbocharged car like this one.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense. The brake pads are about half gone, but they're still good. Nothing's loose there. Sway bar links are good. We'll move over to this wheel. The brakes are a little under half, probably. Nothing loose there. One thing I noticed, Adrian, is this is not all-wheel drive like you would think on some of the more modern Volvo wagons.
Yeah, it just wasn't where Volvo was at the time, but in 2 years after this car, yeah, they had all-wheel drive in a couple of different variants, and it's worked out well for them ever since.
Yeah. This one just a front-wheel drive, guys, but still does the job. There's a little bit of the seepage that's been leaking along here. A lot of this is undercoating, it looks like. Body undercoating. Still has a catalytic converter intact. Obviously it's not rusted out or beat up underneath here. And there's our fuel filter. It looks to be probably original, I'm not sure. Take a look at the brakes here. They're also about half gone. Still good. Nothing loose. Here's our Neville-Matt shock absorbers that Adrian was talking about.
And they're great when they work. They just weren't my favorite.
They weren't your favorite?
No.
Okay.
No, when they break, they are expensive.
There's a little rubber jounce bumper there. It's kind of just hanging out there.
Looks like it's fallen down from the top.
Yeah. And there's the other Neville-Matt shock. Brakes are halfway gone. This one wouldn't have sway bars in the back really because it's kind of a solid beam. There's not a whole lot of this going on. Right. Maybe a little bit, but not much. There's brake hose, looks good. And there's our exhaust. Really, this thing's in pretty decent shape for the miles and age.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like for you to contact your customer and tell them you don't know what happened to the car, but it just magically disappeared.
All right. Yeah, I know a couple people that want this car already. Yeah, let's go ahead and lower this thing down. Let's see what we got in here. Looks like the spoiler, some sort of a spoiler he wants to install in the future, just sitting there for now.
Yeah, that doesn't really work too well for aerodynamics, does it, right now?
No, not sitting in there, it doesn't.
One of the things I liked about V70 ownership or Volvo wagon ownership in general is just space. I used to get a kick out of going to Lowe's or Home Depot and buying some of the biggest items I possibly could, and then having one of the assistants come out with me and then have them look puzzled at my car and say, "You're not going to get that in there." And sure enough, you would.
Yeah.
Because there's just space all over this vehicle.
Now,
Right.
Adrian, imagine a 5'3" little lady like my mom doing the same exact thing, and she proved him wrong every time.
Every
for a Volvo
time.
station
Yeah.
wagon.
Every time. There's tons of room in here. In fact, if you don't mind, I can fold the seats forward and show you.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's take a look at that. That's like a truck, basically.
Absolutely. Created over 6 feet of pass-through. I think the number is about 8 feet
8 feet?
of pass-through. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could get a 6-foot board in here easily.
Yeah, no problem.
Wood for something you're doing a remodeling project? Or
They're the perfect work vehicles.
wow. Let's see what's underneath. Not much of anything there.
No, it's not, but what we pass up is that it's lockable.
Right.
Right, so you do have lockable storage underneath there, which is nice.
Let me check under this one. More of the same storage.
More of the same.
All right.
When this comes back up, there's a safety net in this one in particular
All right.
that pops up out of the back. So again, for safety, if you have heavy items that are in the trunk of the vehicle, you know what happens when you get into an accident?
They go flying forward.
They become projectiles.
Yep.
Right. So it's nice to be able to have a net here. This other seat has the same thing, and then connects across the top.
So thanks for following along, guys. I knew when this car showed up and the customer would like to have it filmed, there's only one name when it comes to having somebody show us all the cool features, all the things about this car, facts and things that I didn't even know. Now, when I work on these cars, I don't check out all these little features and things. I focus on what's broken, I fix it and deliver it back to the customer. Definitely have somebody here that knows their way around the vehicle, and Adrian definitely does. Thanks for coming along and showing us everything here, Adrian.
Absolutely.
Really value your knowledge of these cars. It's immense.
I have a love for Volvo, and I really think that, you know, once we spread the knowledge about the cars, then, you know, that'll allow them to live on, you know, even the older ones.
Right. If you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop to work on cars like this, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and really appreciate that. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, I really recommend you do that now, because we got many more cool vehicles in the shop and a lot of updates on projects. Thanks for watching.
Do a real quick